For the first day of the meeting, I'd like to ask Susie if she would come up and read the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, so our meeting last year was on January 19th, 2020. Pastor Kinley was our interim pastor, and he opened the meeting with prayer, and we had 32 people in attendance. The minutes were read and approved. Our financial reports, Don DeLauder presented the budget along with an explanation of how it reflects the consistory's plans to hire Kinley. Don reported that our weekly offering will need to be $11,040 in order to meet the proposed budget. Emily Quisenberry made a motion that the budget be approved as presented. Jillian Karujic seconded the motion. The vote was favorable and the budget was approved. And I have the report attached to this. Wanda reported on our memorial funds and investments. We had words from the pastor. Kinley spoke briefly, sharing his thoughts on how the church can grow. He encouraged us to be passionate, be in prayer, greet visitors graciously, and be open to new and different things. He also stressed the importance of investing in our young people as they are the future of the church. For old business, Consistory President John Harper reviewed the year's projects, so this would have been 2019. We continued our backpack outreach with John C. Myers. The hospitality room had returned, Java for Jesus, which we miss. We replaced plexiglass on the sign, purchased new letters and felt boards. The flag pole base was new and improved. We landscaped in the back corner of the church. Flower beds had been mulched. We set up a Facebook page and a messenger group. The front doors were painted. We added, I believe that Gary did this, added new hardware and light fixtures. Power washed the front of the church. We wrapped gifts for Shop with a Hero event. We went Christmas caroling, which was so fun, and implemented the new visitor and attendance pads in the pews. As far as new business that we talked about last year, Robin and Bryn were nominated as new consistory members, and a motion was made and seconded to nominate as presented. A vote was taken and the motion carried. Those consistory members leaving the board, Wanda, Jillian, were recognized for their service. The property committee basically announced that their members were Gary, Don DeLauder, Robert Frazier, and Willie Short. As far as the cemetery committee, Robin reported that that committee hadn't met in 3 years. It has a healthy budget and there are plenty of sites available. And the search committee, at that point, we were ending up our job. And Robert presented a review of the work and the actions that we had been working on the whole year of 2019. And with no further business, the meeting was adjourned. Any questions?
I think you should have spoken. You said the offering required was 11,000 a week.
Yeah.
Oh,
1,140.
yes.
We're not there.
Only 4 digits, sorry. Only 4 digits.
We don't need that much.
Susan, you did on the front, really put the lights in.
Okay, well, it was all, okay. Anything else?
I guess if there are no additions or corrections to the minutes, then they're approved, stand as read. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next, we'll have the treasurer's report.
Okay, I'll go through all the financial stuff. Usually Wanda takes part of it and Robin does part of it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it all just to ease. First of all, the cemetery report. Robin checked with them. They've met several times this year because at one point the owners of the land thought they were wanting to sell. They went through a couple negotiations, and then at the last minute she decided she doesn't want to sell the property, so that's on hold for right now. But the cemetery fund is, as John Spitzer told us, approximately $500,000 is in the cemetery fund. So Lots of money in the cemetery fund. The committee consists of 2 members of our church, 3 members of the church next door, and that's the group that does it. And a plot is available. Plots are available, and they're $400 each. And anything else on the cemetery fund, Robin? Okay, the next one, everyone receives one that says Trinity Annual Report 2020. That's Wanda's report. She takes care of the scholarship checking, memorial checking, and scholarship checking, memorial savings, memorial checking. You see the balances there. The big item is the next page. For newer members, our church has a fairly healthy investments. And you'll see there we have several funds who, and it says where they came from. We have the Nash General Fund, which stands at $50,886. The Parsonage Fund, at one point in time, we shared this house next door to us with the county line as the parsonage, and they bought our half of it many years ago for my time, 30 couple of years plus. That stands at $45,000. And we have a scholarship fund which stands at $144,000 right now. And the scholarship basically consists of, if you're someone who's going to school, going back to school, you attend church or events 26 times a year, you're allowed to get a portion of our scholarship fund. I think it stands at $2,000 right now a year, but it's something, we can talk about more about that if anyone's interested. And then the Reverend Heist Fund, which is $49,118. So total, at the end of this year, we have a total in our investments of $290,214. And if you sit there and look at it, January of this year we stood at $254,000. Now we stand at $290,000. So the investments had a return rate of about 14%, which is amazing with the ups and downs we went through. When the Corona hit, it dropped to under $200,000, and it's come back since. So the people we pay to take care of investments do a very good job for us to have a 14% return on our investment. Any questions? Okay, so that's our investments. Now we'll get to the budget. Okay, and that is, you got 2 pages. One of them says, basically this is the last quarter of December, and I just tied the budget onto it. You have one that shows our weekly offering and our checking account balance. At the end of this year, our checking account balance stands at $50,471. At the end of last year, it stood at roughly $33,574. So in basic accounting, we brought in more than we spent, which is always a good thing for any treasurer when you're looking at this kind of stuff. So you can see how our offering at the end of the year averaged $1,252. Our goal was $1,140, as Susie mentioned in the report. So not 11,000, but 1,100. So basically, I'll go over. You can look on the one page which shows the 2020 actual, which was $65,000 in incoming. Our budget for that year was basically $59,000, and this year, to make things work, we're looking at $71,000. And the way I got to that, you can see on the right-hand side, the $71,000 consists of, I took what we did last year, and I figured as a church, we're in a position to grow, even with this COVID stuff going on, and we grew by about 10% last year in offering and membership and so forth, and we're looking at a 10% growth this year. That's just a target I put in there, so we're looking at a goal of $1,377, and that can be attained many ways. I mean, if you're someone who gives $20 and you feel in your heart to give $22, that's 10%. If we get 2 or 3 more members, 5 or 6 more members, that's a way to get 10%. But it's just a goal to have. And as a church, and with a new pastor and the energy we got here, I don't think that'll be a real issue. But based on that, I got a budget income of $71,000. We'll be, even with that, we'll be drawing $13,000 out of the surplus of $50,000 in our checking. And our incoming goal of $86,000 matches up with our expenditures of $86,000. I mean, you can see where Kenley's salary's there, We pay him for his mileage and his use of his car. Our music director gets $142 per week. Our person who does the cleaning gets $159 per month. And you can see the basic. I got the gas, electric, property, the odds and ends that I just took what we typically use and just put it into this year also. And I think, unless someone gets more detail, our budget right now would be, our projected budget is $86,169. And this year was $63,000. Anyone have any questions? I think it's a budget I'm very comfortable with, especially since the fact that we're starting the year with a $50,000 surplus from the last couple of years. So, if things go the way they are, we should be able to go to maybe 3 years with allowing us to grow and be where we want to be, and still not have to dig into our investments of $290,000. Any questions? Hopefully I didn't go too fast and throw too many numbers out there to everybody. So John, I guess if there's no questions, John will have to ask for a motion to approve the budget.
Do I hear a motion to approve the budget?
Motion to approve the budget.
Do I hear a second? Budget stands approved.
Yeah, you got the vote.
All in favor? Aye.
There you go.
All opposed?
Thank you, Don.
Oh, you're welcome.
Big Don.
Yeah. And if you have any questions or anything in particular on the line items and stuff, just let me know. Okay, thank you all. I don't know if I do have a mask. Here it is.
So let me tell you what I've been doing this last year, and I try to do at least 4 visits a week. So some of you have seen me, some of you haven't. And let me just say first off, if the pastor comes to see you, it's not a bad thing. I'm not coming to fuss at you or anything. I just want to be able to be connected with you so that we can continue to build a relationship. Especially now with the COVID times, I know it's hard to let people in your home, and I fully understand that. But if I call you, it's not bad. It's just, I want to come see you. So I've started to schedule some of our shut-ins, so I kind of know when I'm going to see them. And something that I was thinking of, us as a congregation, if I know we don't have our cafe anymore, but if I know that I'm going to see like Nancy or the Kings, I'm thinking if there's some bakers in our church, that if you knew I was going to see Bill and Jenny, that if you could bake something, I would take it to them. Kind of like, bake it and I'll take it for them. And that way I can say, hey, this is from the church. I know that you're not able to get out, but here is something that we can do that it's not just me seeing them, we're providing something. I took Bill and Jenny some homemade rolls last week, and they just loved it, just thinking that there was just a little bit of something to let them know that we're thinking about them. So think about that, as a church, if we can do something. Another thing that I was thinking about as a congregation, is there something that we can have here to give our guests when they come? Something to remember us by. I know some congregations do mugs, coffee mugs, but I don't know. If we have a guest, if we put something in their hand, or whether that's we take them a loaf of bread or something, just so that we still try to build that relationship. They're in here, let's give them something that they can reflect back on who we are. And if you drink out of the coffee mug, I guess you can see our name every week or every day that you're drinking it. But something to think about. For us to continue to grow, especially in COVID times, if you are on Facebook and you get my messages, I would love for you to share them. Because the more we get out what we're talking about and who we are, that's getting us out during this COVID time. And the other thing is, that way they can get a feel for my messages, but also that we want people to hear our messages and be a part of our church. And obviously, we need to continue to see if there's people that feel comfortable coming and inviting them to share our worship experience with us. I took 2 classes this last year to get, I guess, my part of the UCC certification that I need. I'm still working on getting my ordination through the Mennonite Church. They're still working on a document, a memo of understanding. And I was hoping to be able to have that with you today to share, but I still haven't got my copy, so we're still working on that. But I'm going to be taking 3 classes this next year, 2 more for the UCC, and then I'm taking 1 this Friday talking about family dynamics, trying to understand family dynamics and to help me if there's situations in families and stuff like that that I can help negotiate and help people to understand things. So I'm taking 3 classes this next year. I had a suggestion that we as a church have a website, not just a Facebook page, but a website. And I have a young lady that is willing to do that. Ellie says she's willing to set us up a website. But she would like directions from our first, as a church, whether that would be helpful to kind of have our story on it and so that people can go and look for it. But she's willing to do that if that's something that we would like to do. But she would like some guidance. What would we want on that website? So just another thing to try to get us out there in front of other people. A couple other things that I want to move forward trying to do is in my weekly emails, if you're not getting the weekly emails, please let me know and I can get you on the list. But we want to try to start sharing budget information, how much we've gotten each week and where we stand with the budget. Also, I want to be able to share consistory minutes. So us as a congregation, you can kind of know what's going on with consistory. We're not trying to keep secrets. We're just going to find a way to make sure that we can get the minutes out into your hands so that you know what's going on in the church. The last thing, I have a question that we should think about as a congregation is I put in the videos when I do my sermons the scripture, and the people are able to see it while I'm reading it. So the suggestion has been made, what if we put a projector up here so I could project the scripture right here on the wall and you could follow along with what we're reading. So that's a thought for our congregation to think about that moving forward, to make it user-friendly. And then when we're back to singing, we can put our song lyrics up there too. You can look in the hymnal, or we can actually put those up on the wall too. Just thoughts. My big thing is we don't usually have an opportunity to ask me questions or anything like that. So I'll just, is there questions or anything from you as a congregation as what I'm doing or anything like that?
I love the progress I love your videos. I think the whole progression from day one when you learn how to do it to what we are now is almost like a Hollywood production.
I don't know about that.
And I really like when you put the passages in. It helps me because sometimes I get a little deflected when I'm trying to listen to it in person, but I can sit there and read it and stay on task, and I think that's a great idea. If there's some way we can project it up on the wall, it's a good start.
Thank you, Rob.
So is he okay to, what did you say?
He said he likes the idea of putting it up there on the wall.
Can I say I don't?
Yes.
I don't, because it's getting too like commercial TV to me in the sanctuary. and all this isn't anything negative, it's just, my type of learning, if I'm reading and you're talking, I lose the whole thing. I watch you read, and I know what you said. It's up there, I'm looking at that and not listening to you, and I've lost the whole thing.
Yeah.
You lose that personal, I like the personal connection. When you're speaking and I'm looking at you, I understand what you're saying, I feel your passion, I feel your love. I won't get it off of that.
I understand.
Or you get both. I think people tend to learn better if they have two different methods.
And I just brought this up, and we get, you know, one thing I'd like for us moving forward as leadership and consistory and everything is if we have a decision or something that people may have concerns about, to allow, before we take action as a consistory, to say, hey, this is something that we're discussing. Bring your viewpoints to a consistory member, and then the next month, hopefully consistory can make a decision. So that's the way I would like to see the leadership. Yes, Robin?
A different subject. Pre-COVID, I visited my sister's church in Woodstock, Antioch Church of the Brethren. And since I was a visitor, they handed me a little bag, like one of the flimsy kind of grocery bags that you can reuse that had their church name on it. And inside the bag was a coffee mug with their name, an ink pen, and then a magnet to put on your fridge that was a picture of the church and had the service times listed and maybe the phone number or something. So I do like that idea. Maybe as a consistory we can start talking about coming up with something like that. I know you have business cards too, so
Yep.
a business card could go in it.
Yeah. Just something to, yeah. Yes, Paula?
Growing up in this church, I have a lot of fond memories, and I think probably one of the fondest as a child was celebrating the special days in the calendar. Like there was a Children's Day, Children's Sunday, there was a Father's Day, all the fathers came, Mother's Day, Grandparents' Day. There were all those days that we had that we would celebrate and we would bring in all of our family. That's just something that I thought of that I remembered in the past that was always just so special. Food, yeah, food was really.
She's talking about how in the past this church has celebrated holidays like Father's Day, Mother's Day, and made it a celebration when we had those.
Another thing that I remember my son, Sean, interviewing some of the older people in the church.
That's on Grandparents' Day.
Yeah, Grandparents' Day, he did that, and I thought that was really neat.
Senior.
What's that?
Adopt a senior.
Adopt a senior. That worked out, you know, once we get the kids back in here. I think that's a great idea.
Obviously, I pushed last time for a fellowship Sunday, the first Sunday of the month, and being able to have a meal and a get together. Hopefully, once COVID's over, I would love to see that come back. Just because some of those were our bigger Sundays where people came and were able to interact and we were able to make connections.
I have a question. Does the church have any outreach programs planned for this year?
As I know, we're not doing the backpacks anymore, right? Is that right?
I haven't. I can check and see if there's still a need.
I think they take food home now from the cafeteria.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, now they do it differently. They take food from it's from school, they take food home.
And one idea that's been in my mind, I guess, over the last year, I mentioned when you came to visit me, is you see a lot on Facebook, small communities going to little pantries, like we have the book pantries around town, setting up an outside food pantry. When you go to Costco and get a whole case of vegetables for $6, I mean, it would be easy. I think there's probably a whole lot more need in this community than we realize, because we are still a rural, blue-collar area. I think that's one thing that could do a lot of good and bring a lot of people to know that this church is trying to help you.
And we brought that up in consistory, and that's something that's still in the table that we're discussing. So we have discussed that. I will say that we have an opportunity that I know if somebody's willing to help, at Grace Mennonite Fellowship, they are in dire need of people to help at the food pantry on Monday evenings. So I know right now, Alice, in this congregation, we have several members that are involved with Habitat for Humanity. As outreach that some people are doing, but as far as a church initiative, we don't have one. But we'll definitely take another look at the food pantry. Is that what it's called? Or what's it called? Community pantry or something?
Like the little library ones?
Yeah. Is there, Alice or anybody else have any other ideas for outreach that they would like to see from the congregation or things that we can do?
In terms of outreach, Kinley, you may want to work with the Broadway Timberville Ministerial Association. I think they're rather, they've been kind of a little bit inactive, I think, with COVID. We mentioned the situation at First United Methodist, but I was part of that group, and it was a very active group, community conscious outreach. The Meals on Wheels program went through them. So you might want to check with them in terms of the status. I think Marilyn Heichman is still part of that group. I think it's fallen on bad times, but you might want to check, find out what the other churches are doing and what we can do with them.
I certainly will check into that. All right. Any other questions or concerns?
Of course, with COVID list, we can do a lot of health issues too, as far as programs and health screenings and fairs and things like that.
And I will say, Alice, with Kim's initiative with being a parish nursing program, is something that we could definitely do some outreach with. So, all right. I am enjoying what I'm doing right now with you guys. I love going for visits. And yeah, it's been a really good change for me to be out of the schools and being able to serve where my heart is. So I appreciate the opportunity to continue to be your pastor and be able to get to know you and walk with you with your walk with Jesus.
I think you're doing a great job.
Is there any other old business anyone wants to discuss? And I guess we'll move on to new business, and then the thing that I have here is Susie and I are going off the consistory, and we have Karen Langford, Gary Klein, and Robert as the new members for consistory. Get it on a minute. And I'll open up the floor for any nominations from the floor. Anybody has any? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept the nominations as they stand?
I'll make a motion to accept the nomination.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, then. As that goes, then it seems our new consistory members will be Karen Langford, Gary Klein, and Robert Frazier. Is there any other new business anyone wants to, I guess we have to vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Does anyone have any other new business?
I know that we have talked about on consistory, the need to update and make a new directory. Just because we have new members, we have more people attending. And we've looked into an online type directory, and so we'll probably be, I guess, Paula and I sort of said we would work on this. The online directory is a basic notes.
your address in there? Do you want to put your phone number? Do you just want your email? Do you want, So we were just sort of, I guess, thinking about mentioning that today and seeing if anybody has concerns one way or the other, thoughts one way or the other, how receptive people would be to that idea. Irregardless of whether we do the online thing, we definitely need to update, information. So,
I think it sounds good.
Good
I think
idea.
you need both.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like we can, we haven't done it yet. We just sort of looked into it. You can get a 30, there is a fee for it. I think it's like $10 a week. But,
$10
not
a
$10 a week, $10 a month, so it will be, sorry. I'm telling you, I'm not a math person. I'm a special ed. Yeah, so there is a fee that's not, too terribly bad.
It's in the budget already, too.
Is it? Okay, well, there you go. So it's already, you already included it in the budget.
And it can work in with the website?
And it could be some,
You say, pictures can be with that too?
Yes, like if you want to put your pictures up, you can add a picture, which is helpful because, especially when COVID is over and we have more people coming in, we can put pictures with names, so we remember who our visitors are, or who are, when they become regular attendees. That's what we know. Some of the details we would have to work out. And we'd have to figure out the logistics of, I guess, a sign-up sheet, so we would know what we wanted to be included, there's a 30-day free trial, so I guess if we really want to mess around with it, I could do the 30-day free trial and set something up, so I have more details. So,
Good idea.
Excellent.
so general consensus is,
Yes.
check out, okay. All right.
John, before you, one other thing I was thinking of is you can look around here and when we were up to about 70 people, because at one time we had 70 people and we were in the 60s. If you know people that were here and they're not here, sometimes it's great to have people from the congregation just to give a phone call and say, hey, we miss seeing you, you're doing okay. Because I'm contacting them, but when they hear somebody else from the congregation, that can mean a lot more than just me, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Kenny. Anything else? Consistory will meet right after this meeting to elect officers for the next year. If nothing else, then I'd like Kinley to adjourn this meeting with a prayer.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much. I thank you again for this group of people willing to serve and worship together. I ask that you go before us as we don't know what's happening next week or anything in the future, but let us go together as a body of believers. We ask that you give us clear direction and let us be able to love each other as well as our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.